Welcome back to my channel, Silent Heroes. This channel never forgets its heroes. Today, we're diving into a story that will grab your heart, squeeze it, and never let go. You'll feel the fear, the rage, the silent power of someone the world thought they could break. Ava Sinclair stepped onto the training yard like a ghost out of nowhere. Her t-shirt was faded to a dull gray, frayed at the edges, boots caked with mud from some forgotten back road, a backpack that looked like it had survived a hurricane and a storm of its own making. Her hair tied low, swaying as she moved, simple, plain, unassuming. The other recruits, muscle-bound, perfectly pressed, and cocky, snickered immediately. Whispers darted like knives. "Who's that?" a voice hissed. "Did Supply drop off the janitor by mistake?" Laughter rippled across the yard. Ava's eyes didn't twitch, not a flicker. She simply surveyed the chaos, her hands slipping into her pockets, silent, still, like she was waiting for something only she could hear. Every laugh, every mocking glance bounced off her like water against stone. Captain Harris, a mountain of a man with a face carved out of granite and a voice that could stop a riot, stopped pacing and zeroed in on her. You there, what's your story?" he bellowed. The yard went silent. Even the mocking cadets froze for a split second. "Supply crew, sir," Ava replied, calmly. No hesitation, no smirk, nothing. Just a flat, unwavering tone that somehow seemed louder than his shout. The cadets snickered under their breaths. Tara, a tall blonde with a sharp ponytail and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, leaned toward her friend. "Bet she's just here to tick a box," she whispered. "Gender quota, right?" Ava didn't flinch, not even slightly. She kept her eyes on Captain Harris, unyielding, unmoved. "I'm a cadet, sir," she said simply. Harris snorted, waving her off. "Get in line. Don't slow us down." The yard erupted into quiet laughter again, the kind that was meant to humiliate rather than amuse. During the first meal in the mess hall, Ava chose a corner table, far from the buzz of chatter and bragging voices. The room smelled of burnt coffee, sweat, and overcooked eggs. Derek Long, a buzz-cutted, cocky cadet with a mouth too big for his head, noticed her sitting alone. He sauntered over, dropped his tray with a clatter. "Yo, lost girl, this ain't a soup kitchen." Laughter exploded behind him. "Maybe here to wash dishes," one of his cronies added. Ava paused, fork halfway to her mouth. She looked at him steadily. "I'm eating," she said calmly, deliberate, not loud, not timid, just there, solid, grounded, unmovable. Derek flicked her tray. Mashed potatoes splattered across her t-shirt. The room howled, the laughter sharp, cutting, eager to shame. Ava wiped the mess off slowly, methodically, her eyes still fixed on her plate. She ate as if nothing had happened, as if he didn't exist. Training began immediately after breakfast. Warm-ups were brutal. Push-ups until your arms screamed. Sprints that burned lungs to ash. Burpees under a sun that felt like it was hell-bent on testing every inch of skin. Ava moved with rhythm, slow, steady, breathing controlled. But her shoes? Threadbare, laces frayed, threatening to come undone with every step. Lance Mercer, the camp's so-called golden boy, jogged alongside her, broad shoulders gleaming in the morning light. "Hey, thrift store, are your shoes given out, or is that just you?" Laughter rolled like thunder behind him. Ava knelt quickly, retied her laces with fluid precision, stood and ran on without a word. She did not flinch, did not react. The yard was alive with mocking, but she moved through it like a shadow, untouchable. At one point, during a navigation drill, Ava was alone, compass in hand, moving through thick forest. Kyle, wiry, jealous, and desperate to show up Lance, snatched her map and tore it to pieces. "Let's see you do without this," he shouted, tossing the scraps into the wind. Ava froze for a heartbeat. Then, quietly, deliberately, she spoke. "Hope you know your way back." And she kept moving, pace unchanged, calm, silent. The laughter faltered. The whisper of awe began. Later, during rifle drills, she demonstrated skill that was almost unreal. Every motion precise, deliberate. 52 seconds to disassemble, clean, and reassemble an M4 carbine. Perfect. Sergeant Polk stared. "Where did you learn that?" "Practice," she said, eyes down, face calm. The whispers began. Special forces? Impossible, yet undeniable. But nothing compared to the first real combat simulation. Lance, cocky, charged at her, fists clenched. He grabbed her collar, yanked violently, and the t-shirt tore down the back. The room went silent. Every mocking laugh froze mid-air. And there it was, half of Ava's tattoo, a black coiled viper biting into a shattered skull. Her gaze didn't waver, calm, controlled, unreadable. Yet beneath that stillness was a quiet storm. One half glimpse of ink, one moment of revelation, and the entire camp understood. The underdog they had scorned was untouchable, invisible strength incarnate. From that moment on, the laughter stopped. Whispered guesses replaced it. Eyes followed her every step, hearts pounding, not from fear of physical strength alone, but from the aura, the history, the promise etched across her back in black ink. Ava moved through the yard with the confidence of someone who had survived the impossible, someone who had been forged in secrecy, honed in shadows. Tara, whose smirk had been so quick to form, suddenly found herself frozen mid-step. Lance, pride trembling, stared at her, color draining from his face. Even Captain Harris, the mountain, the man who could stop riots with a single voice, could only watch, unblinking, as she finished the drill with perfect composure. The first day of boot camp ended not with laughter, but with an uneasy, almost fearful respect. Ava Sinclair had arrived like a whisper, a shadow, a storm that no one had seen coming, and in that moment, the camp would never, never forget the name. The sun had barely risen over the training yard, but already the air was thick with the scent of sweat, mud, and fear. Ava Sinclair was there, standing at the edge of the formation, calm as the storm around her. Push-ups until arms shook, sprints that burned lungs to ash, burpees in the mud-soaked dirt. It was relentless. Every cadet was tested to their breaking point, and yet Ava moved through it like a ghost, steady, deliberate, unshaken. Lance Mercer, still nursing bruised pride from the previous day, sneered across the line. "Watch this one crumble," he muttered, loud enough for the group to hear. A few cadets chuckled behind him, but Ava didn't glance his way. Her focus was internal, her rhythm unbroken, each movement precise, calculated, as if she had done this exact sequence 1,000 times in the shadows where no one could watch. Obstacle courses came next. Nets to climb, walls to scale, rivers to cross. Some cadets stumbled and fell, their yells of frustration bouncing through the air. Kyle, wiry and desperate for attention, spotted an opportunity. He yanked a rope Ava needed for the wall climb, tossing it into the muddy water below. "Try without this, princess," he shouted. His friends erupted into laughter. Ava paused, eyeing the rope with a flat expression. Then, in a heartbeat, she retrieved it, not from the mud, but from a clever loop hidden beneath her arm, previously unnoticed. She scaled the wall effortlessly, each motion fluid, perfect. The cadets' laughter faltered, replaced by whispers. A shadow of doubt crept into their bravado. The mess hall wasn't any easier. Food trays knocked over, insults hurled, spit of mashed potatoes on her uniform, another attempt to humiliate her. Derek Long shoved his tray, the plastic clattering across the table. "Maybe this is more your speed, huh? Waiting tables?" he sneered. Ava didn't flinch. She cleaned the mess, ate calmly, ignoring every jab. Her silence became louder than their voices, her composure sharper than their taunts. But it wasn't just her endurance or calm. Rifle drills brought a new level of awe. M4 carbines laid out, 2 minutes to disassemble, clean, and reassemble. Most cadets fumbled, muttering curses, pins slipping, springs flying. Ava's hands moved like poetry in motion, each part meticulously placed, precision in every line. 52 seconds. perfect. Sergeant Polk stared, mouth slightly open. Where did you learn that? He asked, incredulous. Practice, Ava said simply. Calm, steady, eyes on the ground. No arrogance, no brag, but the ripple of awe began. Cadets leaned forward subtly, glances exchanged, whispers weaving through the air. Ghost Viper? She carried the air of someone trained in secrecy, a shadow operative whose existence was whispered in legends. Physical drills continued into the afternoon. Sprints, relay races, team exercises. Tara and her clique tried subtle sabotage, tripping her, nudging her into the mud, mocking her every falter. Lance and Kyle pushed harder, laughing, shouting insults meant to crush confidence. Yet Ava never reacted. She moved with a patience that unnerved them, her calm masking a coiled strength, like a viper ready to strike. Then came combat simulations, one-on-one, hand-to-hand, no weapons. Ethan Cross, the camp's strongest cadet, stood in her path, broad-shouldered, fists clenched, a grin of arrogance plastered on his face. He'd defeated everyone in the yard, and today he intended to crush the lost girl who dared show up in scuffed boots and a faded t-shirt. "You really think you belong here?" he barked, stepping close, jabbing his fist near her shoulder. "This is my territory, rookie." The cadets gathered around, laughter and taunts ready on their lips. Ava's eyes didn't move. She didn't even shift her weight. Then, calmly, deliberately, she circled him once. No aggression, no strike, and in a blink, she sidestepped his incoming punch with a fluidity that made him stumble. Another feint, another sidestep, and suddenly Ethan was off balance, fighting an invisible force he couldn't read. The cadet's laughter faltered. Whispers started. Could she really? Was she actually capable? Then, with a swift motion, Ava applied a precise hold. No shouting, no brute force, just technique honed over 6 years of secret training. Ethan collapsed to the ground, winded, arms pinned. Not a bruise, not a mark, just total control. Silence. The crowd froze, mouths open, every eye locked on her, every heart racing, realizing she was no ordinary recruit. The midpoint twist had landed. Ava Sinclair had not only survived the physical, emotional, and psychological assault of the day, she had outclassed the strongest cadet in the yard without even raising her voice. Cadets who had mocked her hours ago now exchanged glances, disbelief painted across their faces. Lance's smirk had vanished. Tara's face was pale, her pride crumbling silently. Even Captain Harris, imposing, unwavering, took a step back, watching her with a mix of respect and uncertainty. Ava's calm was disarming. She didn't celebrate, didn't gloat. She simply walked back to the edge of the yard, mud on her boots, hair sticking to her forehead, sweat glistening. Every motion deliberate, measured, a subtle statement that she belonged, that she was untouchable. The drills continued. Nightfall brought navigation exercises through dense forest, low visibility, simulated enemy fire. Ava moved alone, compass in hand, silently correcting others who were lost. Kyle attempted to sabotage her again, hiding markers, whispering false directions. She ignored him, tracing the correct path with her eyes, correcting her steps with ease. By the time she returned, the cadets were huffing, exhausted, cursing the darkness. Ava appeared as if untouched by chaos. Whispers grew louder. Some cadets began to speculate. She's trained somewhere, something, someone we don't know. Others just stared, afraid to ask. Ghost Viper, the name wasn't spoken, but the presence, the aura, hinted at something legendary. Ava's every action seemed to combine brutal efficiency with unassuming grace. Rope courses, obstacle walls, tactical maneuvers, nothing fazed her. She moved through the yard with an unspoken authority, her silent power leaving cadets unnerved yet mesmerized. The afternoon brought tactical drills, groups assigned, tasks complex, scenarios designed to test coordination and intellect. Ava's group initially struggled, but she subtly guided them, small corrections whispered, precise gestures unnoticed by instructors. Chaos transformed into structure, her influence silent yet undeniable. Cadets began to follow her instinctively, confusion turning into respect. By the time evening fell, fatigue weighed heavily across the camp. Yet Ava, standing at the edge of the yard, observing, her face calm, collected, sweat and mud coating her, seemed untouched by the relentless day. The whispers had grown to murmurs, the laughter vanished. She was no longer the underdog. She was a storm, silent, developing, unseen until felt. Then came another subtle hint of the ghost viper lineage. During a night drill, she executed maneuvers so precise, so flawless, that even the instructors paused. Her hand-to-hand skills, tactical awareness, and rifle training all hinted at years of secret, elite instruction. The cadets watched, silently. Awe replaced disbelief. By the end of the night, the shift was palpable. Cadets who had mocked her hours ago now approached cautiously. Leaders in the making began to take notes. Her presence had rewritten the rules of the yard. A quiet authority had emerged, shaped not by words, but by mastery, discipline, and precision. Ava Sinclair walked back to her bunk alone, mud-stained, tired, yet composed. Every glance followed her. Every whispered word carried the weight of realization. She was no ordinary recruit. Not even close. She was something more. A ghost in the machine, a force to be reckoned with, a silent hero whose story had only just begun. The morning sun cut through the mist over the boot camp like a blade, casting long shadows over the yard. Ava Sinclair stood at the edge of the formation, calm, unshakable, mud streaked across her uniform. Every cadet, every instructor, every officer present had been watching her since day one, but none had seen the full picture. Today, that picture would be revealed. Training drills had escalated. Obstacles, simulations, strategic exercises. The yard was alive with chaos. Cadets shouted, instructors barked orders, and tension crackled in the air. Ava moved through it all with a precision that was almost unreal. Her every motion, sprinting, vaulting, sliding under wires, was flawless. Nothing broke her rhythm. Nothing slowed her down, not until the final combat exercise. Lance Mercer, still swollen with bruised pride, charged at her with fists clenched. Tara snickered, confident in her victory. Derek Long whispered under his breath, ready to mock again. And then Ava moved, not fast, not loud, but with a silent inevitability. Her t-shirt tore again in the heat of the struggle, and this time the full tattoo was revealed. The yard went silent. Every laugh, every murmur, every insult froze midair. A black viper coiled around a shattered skull, detailed and intricate, stretched across her back. 6 years of covert training, hidden under the guise of a cadet, now etched visibly into her skin. Ghost viper. Not a myth, not a story told in whispers, a living, breathing, lethal reality. The colonel, standing nearby, froze, eyes wide, face pale. "Who trained you?" he stammered. Ava didn't reply. She didn't need to. Every cadet in the yard knew that this wasn't a simple recruit. Every officer watching understood the weight of her presence. She had been trained under the most secret, elite forces, the kind whose names weren't spoken and whose missions were erased from every record. The combat exercise became instantaneous chaos. Ava neutralized threats with surgical precision. Ethan Cross, still shaking from yesterday, charged again, fists flying. She sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and in a single motion threw him to the ground. Not a scratch, not a bruise, just complete control. Cadets around them gasped. Whispered awe replaced ridicule. The impossible had just happened. Tara, Lance, Derek, they all watched in disbelief. Their petty mockery evaporated under the weight of reality. Every insult they had hurled bounced back, echoing as humiliation. Natural consequences, they realized, had arrived, not from punishment, but from the undeniable truth of Ava's superiority. Ava moved like a shadow through the yard, leading her own small team during tactical exercises. Instructions were precise but quiet. Every movement she taught, covering angles, flanking maneuvers, strategic positioning, was executed flawlessly. Cadets who had once mocked her now followed her without question, silent respect written on their faces. The climax of the day was a simulated breach scenario. A group of cadets had to secure a mock facility while avoiding traps, simulated gunfire, and timed explosions. Ava led silently, gestures subtle, voice calm. Every decision she made was correct, every movement anticipated. Cadets moved like synchronized soldiers, instinctively following her commands, and when the scenario concluded, no one doubted who had orchestrated the flawless operation. Her quiet authority reshaped the hierarchy permanently. Bullies were no longer feared, they were wary. Respect replaced arrogance. Cadets learned that power wasn't about noise, size, or confidence. It was about skill, discipline, and presence. Ava had silently rewritten the rules. Even instructors felt it. Captain Harris, who could usually stop a riot with a single shout, nodded subtly from the sidelines. Sergeant Polk's jaw tightened, admiration hidden under his gruff exterior. Ghost Viper's influence, though unspoken, now radiated through every action Ava executed. By nightfall, the yard was silent. Cadets gathered in small clusters, whispering of awe. Some speculated, some questioned, but one thing was clear. Ava Sinclair's legend had begun. No one laughed anymore, no one mocked, only quiet, reverent acknowledgement of her abilities. Later in the barracks, Ava sat alone, tracing her tattoo with a finger, memories flickering across her mind. 6 years of covert training, missions unseen by the world, discipline learned in darkness under a master who demanded perfection. Everything had led to this day. A silent smile touched her lips. She had arrived, conquered, and vanished, yet left an indelible mark. Cadets who had witnessed her now carried her legend forward silently. Stories would be passed in whispers, then in awe-filled tales. Did you see her move? The way she controlled Ethan Cross? Unreal. Ghost Viper? Real? The tale of Ava Sinclair would echo beyond the walls of Bootcamp, beyond time itself. And just as suddenly as she had arrived, Ava disappeared. No farewell, no announcement. Like Ghost Viper before her, she became an enigma, a myth in motion. Cadets looked for her, instructors searched, but Ava was gone. Only her legacy remained. For those watching, for those learning, the message was clear. Skill, discipline, and silent power spoke louder than any insult or attempt to belittle. Ava Sinclair, Ghost Viper, had taught the lesson without a single shout, yet the echoes were deafening. So, dear viewers, if my channel, Silent Heroes, has managed to carve even a small space in your mind, if Ava's story has shaken you, inspired you, or left you breathless, then I ask you, please subscribe, drop a like, and comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. Your thoughts, your voice, your presence, these are what guide this journey forward. Ava's story, though it ended in disappearance, is now yours to carry. Remember it, whisper it, let it live through you. And just as she moved silently, unseen, yet unstoppable, so too can courage, skill, and resilience move through your life, quietly rewriting the rules of your own world.